I want you to picture two people. They work at the same company, same city, same neighborhood. Every 2 weeks, the exact same number hits their bank account. $72,000 a year. Same starting point, same opportunities, same Canada. Now fast forward 20 years. Walk into the first person's life. They're 52 years old. They have $380,000 sitting in their investment accounts. Their mortgage has 8 years left. They sleep well. They don't panic when the car needs repairs. They're not rich, but they're free to make choices based on what they want, not what they can afford. Now walk into the second person's life, also 52, also worked hard for 20 years, but their investment account has $41,000. Their mortgage has 19 years left. Every unexpected bill causes a ripple of anxiety. They've been meaning to get serious about saving for about a decade now. It never quite happens. Same salary, same city, same 2 decades of work, $339,000 apart. This video is about exactly how that gap gets created, and more importantly, how you make sure you end up on the right side of it. Because here's what nobody tells you. The gap doesn't happen because one person is smarter, luckier, or more disciplined than the other. It happens through a series of small decisions, each one feeling completely reasonable at the time, that compound silently year after year until one day the math becomes impossible to ignore. Let me show you exactly how it works. When two people start with the same income, most of us assume the biggest factor in their financial future is what they do with big money. Bonuses, windfalls, promotions. But that's not where the gap builds. The gap builds in the mundane, the ordinary, the decisions that feel so small you barely register making them. Economists have a term for this. Decision compounding. Just like money compounds over time, so do financial decisions. A choice you make at 32 doesn't just affect your finances at 32. It reshapes the entire trajectory of the next 20 years. And the brutal reality is this: most people don't realize their trajectory is being set until it's already set. Let me walk you through the 5 decisions where the gap actually gets created. The first major fork appears around age 30 to 35. Both people are earning the same salary. Both are looking to buy their first home or upgrade from their starter place. And at some point, one of them does something that feels completely justified. They stretch. They buy the bigger house, the nicer neighborhood, the extra bedroom, just in case. In Canada, this might mean the difference between a $480,000 home and a $650,000 home. The monthly payment difference? Roughly $900 to $1,100 after accounting for mortgage, taxes, and insurance. That number sounds manageable. And honestly, in month 1, it is. But here's what that decision actually costs. If instead of spending that extra $1,000 per month on housing, you invested it consistently for 20 years at a conservative 7% annual return, that decision alone is worth $521,000 by the time you're 55. Not the house, not the extra space. That single monthly decision, compounded over 20 years, is worth over $500,000. The person who stretched doesn't feel like they made a dramatic choice. They felt like they made a sensible adult Canadian decision about home ownership, but the math doesn't care how it felt. A few years later, the second fork arrives, and almost everyone hits it. The car needs replacing, or maybe it doesn't need replacing yet, but a new model just came out and the financing seems reasonable. Person A buys a reliable used vehicle, $22,000. It gets them to work, it's safe, it does the job. Person B decides they've earned something nicer, $48,000 SUV, heated seats, good resale value. They tell themselves the payments are only $650 a month, totally manageable. Now, $650 a month isn't a crisis. It's not even that noticeable in day-to-day life. But consider this: if person A invested that same $650 difference monthly for just 10 years, they'd accumulate approximately $108,000 before person B even finishes paying off the vehicle, and then person B replaces it. Over a lifetime of vehicle decisions, this pattern alone accounts for $200,000 to $350,000 in wealth difference between two people with identical incomes. The car didn't feel like a financial decision, it felt like a lifestyle choice, but lifestyle choices are financial decisions, they're just disguised. This is the one that's hardest to talk about, right? Because it's deeply human and completely understandable. After years of working hard, there's a voice that shows up. It sounds reasonable, it sounds fair. I've been working for 10 years. I deserve a real vacation. We've been saving forever. We deserve to renovate the kitchen. I'm stressed and tired. I deserve to order in tonight and just not think about it. None of these moments are wrong on their own. The problem is frequency and funding source. Person A takes the vacation too, renovates the kitchen too, orders dinner too. The difference is that person A funds these things from discretionary income, money that was never earmarked for investing. Person B funds them by pausing contributions, dipping into savings, or putting them on a line of credit just this once. Researchers who study spending behavior call this reward override, the psychological mechanism where short-term emotional logic temporarily overrides long-term financial logic, and it's extraordinarily powerful. What makes it dangerous isn't any single instance, it's the pattern, because every time a retirement contribution gets paused, even for 2 or 3 months, that money loses not just its value, but its compounding potential. A $500 contribution paused at age 37 isn't just $500 lost. At 7% annual growth over 20 years, that's $1,935 lost. And those just this once moments happen more often than anyone tracks. Let me introduce you to two real scenario characters who illustrate everything we've talked about. Meet Sarah and Michelle, same age, same employer, same $72,000 salary. They even carpooled together for a few years. At 32, both of them start contributing to their RRSPs. Both put in $400 a month. Things look identical. At 34, Michelle gets a new boyfriend. They travel a lot. She pauses her contributions for 8 months, just temporarily. At 37, Sarah gets a small raise and bumps her contributions to $550 a month. At 39, Michelle buys a condo, a stretch purchase, but a good neighborhood. Her contributions drop to $150 a month for 3 years, while she furnishes and settles in. At 42, both of them think they're doing okay. Sarah's account, $187,000. Michelle's account, $68,000. Same salary, 10 years of working, a $119,000 gap. And it's accelerating, not slowing down. Because here's the part that destroys people emotionally when they finally see it. The gap doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially. The bigger Sarah's account gets, the faster it grows, because compounding works on everything already there. Michelle would now need to contribute nearly 3 times Sarah's monthly amount just to close the gap by retirement, and she'd need to do it consistently with 0 interruptions for over 20 years. The math is not cruel, the math is just honest. The final piece of the puzzle is the one nobody wants to admit is affecting them, because you don't feel like you're keeping up with anyone, you're just living your life. But your reference group, your colleagues, your friends, your neighbors quietly sets the baseline for what normal spending looks like. And normal is expensive. Normal means renovating your kitchen when your neighbors do. Normal means upgrading your phone every 2 years. Normal means flying to a wedding in Mexico because everyone else is going. Person A isn't immune to this pressure. They feel it too. But somewhere along the way, person A made a decision, maybe conscious, maybe gradual, that their financial goals were more important than their social image. They kept the older car a little longer. They skipped 1 trip. They made their kitchen work for another 5 years. Not because they were cheap, not because they didn't want nice things, but because they understood at some level that every dollar redirected toward visible consumption was a dollar not growing invisibly in an account somewhere. The invisible always beats the visible over 20 years, every time. So when you look at two people, same salary, same city, same starting point, and you see a $339,000 gap 20 years later, you're not looking at luck. You're looking at the accumulated weight of 5 categories of decisions, each one feeling reasonable in the moment, each one quietly compounding in the background. The house stretch, the vehicle upgrade, the reward override moments, the investment inconsistency, the social spending spiral. None of them feels like a crisis when it happens, but together, over time, they write 2 completely different financial stories. Here's the good news. None of this is permanent. Not yet. If you're reading this in your 30s, you are standing at the exact moment where these decisions are still ahead of you. The math is still on your side. If you're in your 40s and you recognize yourself in the wrong story, you still have time to change the trajectory. Not all of it, but enough. The gap is created slowly. It can be closed slowly too. But the first step is seeing it clearly for what it is, not a failure of income, not a lack of intelligence, just decisions, small ones, repeated over time. And decisions, unlike income, unlike luck, unlike circumstance and norma, are entirely within your control. If this hit differently than you expected, subscribe. Every week I break down the financial mechanics that actually determine outcomes, not theory, not motivation, just the math, clearly explained.